Here we go.
Hello and welcome to Set Talks, the podcast that helps you navigate and connect with the Colorado film scene. I'm your host, Nick Fiorella. Today we're joined by two key forces behind Denver-based Truce Media Collective, Brandon Naughton and Julie Speer Jackson. Julie wrote and directed The Flamingo Effect. Although this isn't Truce's first film, it's the very first feature film produced and released by Truce Studios on TrucePlus, a new kind of filmmaker-first model that began with Brandon co-founding Truce in 2019. Today, we are going to discuss how they pulled off making The Flamingo Effect on a micro budget of $35,000, the mission behind Truce, the vision for TrucePlus, which is launching at the Cannes Film Festival this month, by the way, and the bright future of filmmaking in Colorado. Brandon and Julie, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah,
how's your guys' week going?
Good.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
No worries. Well, before we get into, talking through the shoot for the Flamingo Effect, we're actually going to show the trailer.
Oh.
And so we'll do that right now, and then we'll dive into it.
I need to make a social post for my sponsor. I'm so sorry. It'll take 2 seconds.
It's okay, make your money.
Hi, guys.
20 million views? Dude, you've gone viral. That comment has almost 1 million likes.
How can I go viral about this?
She broke the internet.
She's always on that damn phone.
You gotta ask for help from real people in your life.
Life sucks.
Híjole, you've got a lot of followers.
Yeah, 3.3 million haters. It's great.
Everything would be so much easier if I just was never born.
What about the idea of a Christmas festival in the house this year?
Dad, we're Jewish.
Papa, no. Dad, are you okay?
You're never gonna get a job anyway, because I wouldn't even hire you.
What's gotten into you?
Ava, everything is either love or fear.
You have so much to live for. You got your whole life ahead of you.
I think people deserve second chances.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
They could be your spirit animal. They stand for emotional healing and vibrant individuality and connection.
What's going on?
I am Flamingo.
I am Flamingo.
Hope you don't mind, we're twinsies.
Of course we are.
Thank you, universe.
How did you do that?
I manifested it.
Cool. All right. Well, yeah, good stuff. And I did watch this with you guys at the Bug. You guys had the screening, which was that the first?
The second one.
Second?
That's
Okay,
the second
screening,
one.
which I really enjoyed it, Julie. And honestly, I'm always just astonished when people pull off making a feature film. And, it kept my interest all the way through. I really thought the tone of it all was excellent. So, yeah, I'm really excited to dive into it with you. And, if you could just talk about, because I know you traditionally have a background in documentary filmmaking, and this is your first narrative feature that you've directed, correct?
Yep, that's very true, yes.
Yeah, can you just, tell me about the idea of where it came from and ultimately what it took to write the script and then ultimately get it going with Truce?
Yeah, well, so Truce has been doing the 48-hour film festival, like every year for, I don't know, tons of years. And it's always so fun to see what we create in 2 days. And Jenny and I started talking. We're like, why don't we just film for a week and have a movie? And because it's just a little bit more effort, we can probably do a feature. And so that's kind of the genesis of where this came from. And we sort of came up with this whole concept of movie of the week, of like, let's try to see if we can film the movie in a week. And now, having done it, we're like, well, 10 days is probably more realistic. So now the long-term vision is like, we'd love to have a movie of the week dropping once a week. Like that's the long-term vision, is to have one micro-budget movie releasing every week. So this is the first one, and we're already in pre-production for the next one. But this one, so we came up with the idea sort of early summer last year, and I'd say that the whole sort of ethos around Movie of the Week and the Flamingo Effect is containment. So like the script was literally a contained exercise in itself of, I think I got the first draft done in 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
Basically. Yeah, but it was, you know, sort of this collaboration between Jenny and I. Jenny and I are co-producers. I was the director, and Jenny's done tons of 48-hour film festivals. And so she was really good at creating those constraints of, okay, it needs to be in one location. We need to have a limit of actors. And, well, what films do well? Horror, action, adventure, sci-fi, and holiday movies. Well, we didn't have the budget to do sci-fi or action adventure, and I really didn't want to do a horror. So we're like, okay, let's do a holiday movie.
Okay.
And Jenny, sorry?
I just said, okay, yeah, sweet.
Yeah, and so Jenny said, holiday movie, all right, let's, I love It's a Wonderful Life, you know, the Jimmy Stewart movie. So she kind of threw that idea out there, and I just kind of ran with it. And it was very much anchored on my own experience, both as a mom, but also as someone who, you know, when I was in my 20s, I had some really dark moments, and, you know, suicide was on my mind, as probably a lot of young people kind of go through that. And nowadays, as a mom, you know, my kids have all had issues with their phone and social media. And so anyway, the idea was born. First draft came very quickly. With Truce, we have a literary team, and I got reviews and feedback on the script, and we went through several iterations, and basically then we shot it in October, edited it, and premiered it in December of last year. So the whole thing was August, September, October, November, 5 months from nothing to finished and on the screen. And that containment was at every step of the way. And people kept saying, oh, we can't do that. But guess what? We did.
That's awesome.
And sometimes just getting it done, you know, is key. And we kind of use that 48-hour film festival mantra, like, for ourselves, like, you know, done is good, done is good, done is good. And, you know, we're all professionals. Like, this is what we mostly do for a living. So just containing ourselves was a really great exercise.
That's amazing. Yeah. I mean, like, ultimately, like, can you talk a little bit about the planning that went into that? Because it's like, all right, 10, 11 days, you know, I would imagine it really needed to be planned, and just like, yeah, like upfront planning process. And then just what did a typical day look like as far as like maybe hours of shooting and, you know, any logistical challenges, but prep work leading into that shoot. Yeah.
Yeah. So that again was also super contained. I mean, the script was only locked like probably a week before we were set to shoot, and we had a lot of challenges, as you do. But Ben Fout, who is one of the co-founders of Truce, was my assistant director, and he's just the bomb, really. So he was up late every night prepping the schedule for the following day. But I mean, pre-production, I think, was the phase that was lacking the most of all of our phases, because we just jumped in. So it would have been nice to have that, more of that. So on our next one, we're going to definitely extend our pre-production time. But Ben was amazing. And there was a second part of it.
Yeah, just like, what did a typical day look like? And ultimately, did you have any like certain challenges that you ran into that, or like, you know, things that really worked out, you know, that like you kind of lucked out on? I'm sure there was some fun magic moments that maybe weren't planned and stuff.
Yeah, I'd say two kind of big stories. Well, number one is we got the Denver Zoo was a partner on it. So we got to film at the zoo. We got real flamingos. Yeah. That was really magical. And I'd say one of the scary things that turned out to be amazing was that our lead actress dropped out a week before filming. And
oh boy.
We're like, what? But we're gonna do it anyway. So, and the movie, as you see, is very much about trust the universe, and so we kind of use that in our pre-production of, all right, well, everything happens for a reason. somebody else is supposed to be the lead, and we got Caitlin Kennedy. We literally found her within 24 hours. She was cast, and she was phenomenal, and she carries this movie.
Yeah.
So that was a lovely magic. And some of the days were very long. I think our longest was like maybe 16 hours. And our longest production day was 15 pages of shooting, which that's a lot.
That's a lot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And about 80%, 85% of it was shot at my house, either inside my house or outside my house. So it was my house, which meant I was always on time, which was great.
Nice, nice. And what was the actress's name again? One more time?
Caitlin Kennedy.
She was excellent. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, she, just, she had a great presence in the heart of the movie for sure, and and like you mentioned, I just really enjoyed all the themes that came through and the social commentary on social media and whatnot. So yeah, I mean, I thought you guys did a great job. Any moments on set that were particularly memorable as far as something really working out or?
Oh, that's a really great question. I mean, it's magic being on a set, and like, after a week, we all kind of were a little tired. So there's
Sure.
one night, it was a particularly late night. We all kind of just were really loopy. And there's this beautiful moment of we all just busted out laughing, and everything was hilarious. that was a very special moment. But I think, the very first scene we shot was actually one of the hardest scenes of the movie. We started off with the Flamingo feast, the end of the movie where they're all eating at the table, and it was the entire cast. So we started with the hardest. So it felt like everything was kind of easy after that.
Cool. Well, yeah, I mean, from just like a learning perspective, I mean, I'm sure there's a number of things, but did you guys have any kind of key takeaways from doing this shoot that you'll be, taking into the next one? Like you said, a little bit more time maybe for pre-production.
Yeah.
I don't know, anything else that you guys found on the shoot that would be sort of, good, do's and don'ts for the next time?
Well, I think do feed your people well. We had a lot of companies actually donate food, which was phenomenal. So we will continue with that. And we will definitely continue. Truce does these check-ins. So every morning, every cast and crew, we all have the team meeting, and we all share our number for the day. We'll definitely continue with that. We'll definitely have more time in pre-production. And this film was a lot of people's firsts. My first time directing was Ben's first time in a key position. I think one of our ACs was his first time on a feature. There's a lot of people's firsts, and I think that's probably something we'll continue as well. That each movie of the week will have people experiencing it for the first time. I think we'll probably keep that philosophy as well.
Yeah.
Nice.
I mean, I would just add, everybody that worked on it, I would say, kind of reached out to their networks and how do you utilize what you have available?
Yeah.
And I think that's key, because Jenny came to me and was like, hey, who do you know? And I was like, well, I always heard that Illegal Pete's feeds bands on the road. So if you're coming through town or whatever, and I was like, oh, well, I met Pete through when I was working with Josh Blue. He had something, and we're like, hey, we had a meeting, and I was like, oh my God, I got his email. I just sent him an email with Jenny CC, and I was like, hey, we're doing a film. Do you mind donating food? They're like, yeah. And they donated a ton of food, so we got Illegal Pete's, which is really great. It's that saved probably $500 to $1,000 or something, Yeah. So those kind of things of just people don't understand how much power you have when you can just send an email and say hey, I know this person and maybe they can help, and then they offer to do it.
Nice. Yeah. No, it just, mentioning food and feeding your crew, I take that really seriously.
Yeah.
I think it's super important to make sure people are well fed, especially if people are, if it's people are kind of getting together to make a film and, not necessarily getting paid or what have you. Although it sounds like you guys had a budget, so that's awesome. But on the times I've made my shorts and stuff, I always really put a lot of time and effort into the food, just so that people are comfortable and whatnot. And I think it goes a long way to the vibe on set.
Yeah.
Which, can you talk about that a little bit maybe? Because that's always something I'm fascinated by, is just the vibe on set and how that can sometimes translate to screen and stuff like that. That's why the food to me is so important, because it's like, you know, you want people to be in a good mood. You know, it is going to be stressful, but like, you know, yeah. Can you talk about like setting expectations with your crew and ultimately like, you know, making sure people are heard and I don't know, and that sort of thing. And from a leader's perspective, I feel like it's good to kind of sometimes set those expectations up front.
Totally. And I think that is something Truce is actually really good at, because one of our, I mean, we're a co-op. I mean, one of our core values is relationships and transparency. And so every day, like I mentioned, we would have that team meeting where people would share just how they're showing up, you know? And then as a team, we all knew, because it's a 1 to 10, right? If someone says I'm a 3, then everybody knows that, okay, well, we're going to kind of give you a little extra love or grace. I mean, there was one day one of our leads showed up and he was like a 1. I think he might have said I'm a 0. And we all just really kind of supported him, and he ended up, you know, delivering lines. It was a great day, but it's because we were all kind of holding that space for him. I mean, Zen, like Ben Fout, who's the assistant director, I call him Zen Ben. He's very calm. Like, it could be like chaos around, and he has this gift of just being grounded and calm. And honestly, Andy Martin, our DP, also is kind of this like, I don't know, calm kind of dude. And we all just really, I think, like each other, and we had fun, and we don't take ourselves so seriously. And there is something about a micro-budget film which also takes some of that stress away. Like, it wasn't like, okay, it's a $10 million film, and if we don't make our day, then it costs, you know, $10,000 a day or whatever. Like,
right.
The financial stress wasn't there. So I think we had fun, and we all like just kind of did the best we could. And it was, I think, constantly a very positive kind of vibe and environment.
Yeah.
And
nice.
I'm not a director who yells, you know.
I would add that, like, I mean, one of our statements, I mean, Ben always says it, is like, fix it in pre. I know they didn't have as much pre-production for this because of the situation, but I would just add that, like, we all do this on a daily basis. So you kind of know what to do and what to improvise on and that kind of thing. And so, you know, I would say almost every set we've ever had, from when we started Malediction, which is the next film is coming out, which is actually the first one we worked on. I mean, that one was like 6 to 8 months of like weekend shooting and trying to keep continuity and that kind of stuff, and different people, right? But every, you know, project we've done, whether it's a client job or anything, we just believe that a set is a place for learning, you know, like totally. Everyone that's involved, it's like you're always like learning, no matter how seasoned you are.
Yep.
And so, you know, is it detrimental so much that you can't fix it or reshoot it, or, you know, I mean, in the old days, I get it. You had film rolling and you're capturing and you're like, this is insanely expensive, but hitting the record button and turning it on and off, it's so much less stress in that realm, where it's like, let's just do it 10 times if we need to. Like, just do it.
Yeah.
And we'll get it, you know? And so, I mean, even if it were a $10 million budget film, I feel like our sets would always be just, you know, respectful and engaging. And I know we heard a recent one, it was a Red, where it was like, you know, respect and empathy. Allows for a dialogue. And I think that's key, where, you know, everybody that's on set respects each other. Yep. Everybody has empathy for each other's, you know, where they're at in that place and that time. And then we're all willing to have those hard conversations. And like, for a co-op perspective with Truce, I mean, it's more so even than a corporate environment, but I'd say, you know, we've had to lean into conflict on a constant basis, because, you know, you want everyone to be heard and to be seen and to have an opinion. And so that opens it up to, like, you just got to be, you know, willing to take that extra time and listen and make sure everyone's a part of what we do.
But that does go a long way to do that. And even like, I love your idea of kind of checking in with people on a 1 to 10 of like, hey, how are we feeling today? You know, that way they're not just feeling like they're not being heard or whatever. Yeah, absolutely. No, I love that. That's awesome. Well, you know, on the note of Truce Media Collective, can you talk about that? I saw that you have 200 members. So just kind of, if you guys could walk me through Truce Media Collective, the different components and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of start with like, we started simple, Truce Media originally. That was it. That was going to be all of it. But then as we get going, there's this more and more that you need to do, and what do you need to segment in the business. And I think it's like, we kind of look at now Truce Media as the umbrella company, for several entities, and one is True Studios, which is where we're kind of considering that more like the true cooperative, where we're kind of emulating a model from another studio called Angel Studios, where they have guild members. And what we've kind of taken from that is like, we want crew members. Like, they're more faith-based, I guess you could say. They do a lot of faith-based content.
Okay.
We want to do independent film content. Like, we just want, content that's good content that is truly independent. And so we want people that are, people that love film and want to be involved. So we have audience members and crew members. And right now that's only $5 or $10 a month. It supports all the initiatives that we're doing. We provide green light coverage for a lot of our members. If they're working on scripts, we can get that in, get feedback to them. We do table reads with our members, and we just say, hey, who wants to be involved? And we record it, and then we want to put that on the site and share it so people see it. It's like, this is like the ground floor of making a film and being a part of that process. And so that's kind of like True Studios has taken that hold. And what we want is a strong force of creatives that are just kind of tired of the old way of doing things. Like that's, there used to be this model of like, I got a script, I need to shop it, I got to get, 30, 40, $50 million, go make it and get the distributor. And now it's like you can distribute yourself, and there's ways to build your audience. And so True Studios is part of building the audience, just from the audience member side, but also the crew member side. Mm-hmm. And then we have an agency, so Truce Agency. We've been doing a lot of client work since 2019 when we were founded. And we're like, well, people go to Truce Media's site and be like, well, what do you guys do? They'd be like, wait, you're making all these films and stuff. How does that relate to like you doing a commercial for us? We're like, okay, so we need the agency site. But what we do is we actually reach out to all of our crew members first for any of the projects that we're doing. So what specialties do they have, whether that's website building or social media marketing or gaffing or lighting. Like all of our crew members are utilized on the projects that we do through the agency. And then we also have Truce Impact, which is our 501c3 for, raising funds, grant funds for documentaries and different projects that we've done, like the different initiatives. That gives us a way to bring the funds in and use them and in a way that benefits the community.
That's cool.
Yeah, and then the last thing we're launching now. If 3's not enough, or 4, I guess, is 5, would be TrucePlus. So, kind of sticking to the same terms that everyone else is using, like, the Paramount Plus and all the different other, types of pluses out there. But, we just feel like we needed to have a way to distribute content. But we only really kind of got into it because Julie met a team that was been building a microtransaction platform. And so the idea is like, for the idea on Web3 is instead of having to give your name, your info, your address, and sign up for an account, you have to give them all this data, and then you sign up for a monthly subscription. It's like, wouldn't it be better if we just had a wallet and you could just buy whatever you wanted and nobody knew? It'd be like giving cash. You don't need to know who that person is, really. Well, that's kind of how our system is built, where you can fund a wallet and you can buy music, you can rent the movies, you can just pay $1 or $2 or $5, depending on what it is and how long it is, and just enjoy the content and not have to sign up for any subscriptions. And what's really cool, though, is that because it's a wallet-based system, everybody who worked on the Flamingo Effect, kind of tying back to that, we put them into a ledger on that. So when any dollars that come in through the site for Flamingo Effect, nightly get transmitted to everyone's wallets according to their percentage.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it's like, how to create residual income for a lot of the crew members that normally would not get anything but a day rate.
Right.
We want to try to create assets for creatives, over time, and build a catalog of content. So that's why, these micro budget films are important in that, if we could do 100 of them instead of one movie for $3 million, you do 100 of them.
Sure. Yeah.
Then you have a catalog of content that, builds the audience, draws eyeballs, and, can support the creatives that made it.
No, I love it. I mean, you guys are planning on doing this a couple times a year, right? Can you talk about that? Just like what's the plan moving forward? I know the Flamingo Effect is kind of the first one with this kind of model to it, and what's next? You mentioned there was another film in the works, but
we finished Malediction a couple years, like a year and a half or so ago. We were shopping it through an agent and kind of trying traditional, like, hey, let's just see that path and where it takes us. And, the whole industry has just changed so much in the last 3 years, where you had a lack of content to a ton of content. And, what happened is unless you had an A-list name of some sorts, even the most remote territories stopped paying for the licensing of content. So, like, we could go make a cheeky horror film and go out and get like $5,000 from Thailand and $5,000 from Vietnam and go to South Korea. And like, you get $5,000 from each, and all of a sudden you got like 150, 200 grand for a film that maybe you spent 100 grand on or something, and it's like, okay, so you can, start making some money from these things. But all of that is pretty much shut off because they don't really understand how to make real revenue, with these libraries and how they're doing it. It's like, well, they're either selling ads or you're getting a monthly subscription. And if your library gets too big, and how do you spread all that money out to actually pay for stuff? And so you're kind of in the Pandora or Napster realm of filmmaking now, where everything's kind of been to the low. So there's no guaranteed money in any way, shape, or form. So it kind of drives you to like, how do you just self-distribute it and make the money you need to make? If it becomes a hit, or at least a mild one, you can do really well.
No, it's awesome. So so this is a film that you guys had already made, and now you're going to kind of release it as the second film. As on TrucePlus. And what is it?
It's called Malediction, The Evil Truth. So it was a co-production with REB Media.
Okay.
And we kind of started it like at the tail end of COVID. Like, actually, I think we did one day of shooting before COVID. It was like, we need help. We looked at the footage. We're like, oh, this looks really good. And they had a bunch of scenes shot. And we're like, okay, let's hop on board and we'll help. And we did one day of shooting, and then it was like pandemic hit. And so everything shut down, for a while. And then, coming out of COVID, we started prepping to do more. And then we finished up the rest of the film. And we had it done before AFM of, not last year, but I believe like the year before. And we had a sales agent who was starting to go out to all the different film festivals and stuff, and just shopping it around. And, we had some interest in some things, and it was like, oh, we could do that, but we just feel like we could, now that we have the platform, do better ourselves.
No, cool. Well, what's the goal? Is there a certain amount that you guys are trying to accomplish per year? And
I mean, ideally 2, and then 4, and then 8, and then 12.
Until it's, we're dropping one a week and 52. Because we have the talent, right? We have the crew members to do it. But the next movie of the week is called Stay on Stream, and it's a totally different genre. It's a dark comedy, crime, thriller, heist kind of movie. Interestingly, it also is a social commentary on the internet and morality, but in a very different way, right? The Flamingo Effect was very, I want to say squeaky clean, but it was sort of a Christmas holiday movie, uplifting, a lot of love. The next one is a dark comedy.
Nice.
And but we have definitely some returning cast, some returning crew. We have a SAG actor actually, who's on The Bear, the actual TV show, The Bear. So we're also now pushing our contracts, so we'll be SAG compliant, which is really exciting. But that will be filmed in June, and we'll see. We might try to do a couple film festivals with this one before we put it on TrucePlus, but ultimately will be a TrucePlus project for sure.
Nice. And you touched on it. It's like when someone pays, however much it is to watch it, just like a percentage of all the money goes to different people in the film. Essentially is how it works. And as far as like success on the platform, I guess it's like, well, I don't know. Well, it gets as many views as possible would be what success looks like on it. And
I mean, it just kind of depends. I mean, like it's one of those, like if you put it on, let's say Amazon, and you had it for free, or even on YouTube, you'd have to get 100,000 views to generate, I'd say even maybe like $100, something like that, And, you know, in the first week, even with Flamingo Effect, we were able to do over $500 in just the first week, you know, and just going for friends and family and people that support us and spreading the word. And then, you know, we're going to be kicking off kind of more marketing online, and kind of with Malediction doing the same thing, like pre-sales. And we can also pre-sell future content. So that's kind of the next phase and test, is to put, you know, content up that's like, this will be made, you know, when we hit this, you know, pre-buy now and support it, and then we can take that money and start, you know, getting it made. I mean, I think the key is what, like Julie did with Flamingo Effect, was building relationships with sponsors and saying, hey, you know, we're going to give you value for what you're trusting us with, and they see it and they share it and they love it. You know, now we have proof. We use that as a marketing tool to other sponsors and say, like, you know, you see what we've done, let's up it, you know, and keep upping it. And I think that'll be key to getting 52, you know, out a year, and eventually, is like just having a really strong base of supportive companies who are like, oh, I like these 10 movies, you know, here's $5,000 a movie.
Yeah.
Like, we want to be in there somewhere, like on the back wall, or I don't know, on a cup or something, like just some way to integrate their brand into it. And doing that, I think, will then be a lot easier, because we'll have a funding mechanism on the front end as well as pre-sales, which, you know, that's kind of the biggest thing of owning your audience, is like, if everybody, and that's kind of the ethos of Truce, is, you know, we want all boats rising, and like a rising tide lifts all boats. It's like, we really believe that, you know, I might not necessarily like that genre, but because they're a part of Truce, I'm going to pay for it and watch it, you know? Because when my thing's on there, they're doing it. And it's just paying it forward. Like, if everyone pays it forward and can be a part of this community, you know, you have 100,000 people paying to watch this film.
Yeah.
You know, that's
totally.
at $5, let's say, that's $500,000 for a film that costs 100, let's say. Like, you're in heaven, you now have money to make more, you know, more. And
Totally.
It's like, so if everyone, you know, gets in that mindset of just spend $5 12 times a year on these things, you know, and there's billions of people. So
no, love it.
Reaching out to the right people that see what we're talking about and saying, like, I connect with that, and
That's
I want
cool.
my stuff supported. I'll support yours, you know?
Yeah, no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and we're not building it just for us, right?
Yeah.
We're building TrucePlus for creatives around the planet. So we're actually soft launching it at the Cannes Film Festival next month, in like 2.5, 3 weeks. And so we're going to be adding probably 20 to 30 pieces of content to the site in the next couple of weeks. And the vision is that it'll be open and available to content creators to distribute their productions. And we really will prefer and promote those films that are actually sharing revenue with the entire cast and crew. Because right now, you know, you pay $3 to rent a movie on Amazon. I mean, the gross lion's share of that, well, stays with Amazon, but then goes to the studio, right? It doesn't go back to the cast and crew. So
Right.
that happens. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, best of luck at Cannes. I hope you guys can network some cool stuff. And yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes. Like, you know, so for listeners that maybe are filmmakers, like, that would love to, you know, have their film be the next Truce Media film, Truce Studios, you know, how would they go about accomplishing that? Do they, you know, become a member, submit a script?
Yeah, you go to trucestudios.com. That's kind of our main hub on this member side. And then, you know, that'll direct you over to Patreon. And, you know, we recommend, like, there's a free tier, just join the free tier, you know, start talking to us. And then you can, you know, if you're going to submit a script for greenlight coverage and things like that, you know, we ask to be a crew member, so the $10 level. And, you know, we're just taking that money and spending it on the subscriptions for all the different things that we're using for everyone to help and assist. And that's really kind of the start of it. And then, you know, for people watching, like I said, it's like, you know, if you like what we're doing, help spread the word. You know, like, how do we just, you know, get every person going to 10 people and making that? Because like I said, I mean, a small group of even 10,000 people, which is very, very small in the world of even YouTube or anything like that. I mean, most of the time you have to have 1 million followers to even kind of make a dent, you know. I've helped build like a couple sites on YouTube, like, and they're, you know, we had 40, 50,000 people, and you're like, this should be great. It wasn't great, you know. But in our world, if we had 40 or 50,000 people, that makes a huge difference, especially at $10 a month. You know, you start doing the math, you're like, wait a second, we have $400,000 and we made a film for 35. Like, we could be making 10 a month now. Like, when that's what we want to do. We're not taking the money and putting it into our pockets. We're literally trying to just create content after content, you know.
That's awesome.
And the vision is that when we do start to get this pot of funds, that it's the members, the crew members actually vote on what we're going to do next. What we're gonna put do next. But the vision is also that, you know, with enough members, there is no like executive studio exec that's going to greenlight other people's content. Like if a Truce member has a film they want to make, they put it out to the collective. Hey, I need a DP. Hey, I need some actors. Hey, I need this. And the idea is that, you know, the collective can support that creator's content. And, you know, that's the whole point of why we exist. So come on into Truce, basically.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and I think that feedback is important of like, you know, just taking your stuff and putting it out there and then saying like, who wants to help and get involved? Because like I said, if we have 10,000, 20,000 members and like half of them are like, this is cool. Like, we have to make this. And it's like, well, you know, everybody pitching $10, you know, like now we have 200 grand, like 200 grand helps us lock in, you know, a casting director who maybe knows, you know, has the direct into the people we want. You get that person, now you can get the bigger funding to actually make it happen too. So there's still traditional ways of funding that has more to do with like, we need certain talent, which then gets you, you know, 5 million, 10 million, that kind of a deal. That's still possible. It's just that you know, like Julie was saying, you're trying to cut out this, you know, gatekeeper, you know, where it's like, we don't need approval. And I think that was kind of key to Flamingo Effect was like, you know, for so long we've been sitting around like, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that. I'm like, well, where do we get the permission to do that? And you just have to give yourself the permission. You just have to, you know, green light yourself.
Right. Well, that's awesome.
I'm greenlit.
Yeah. And also just like being able to send it to the group. And like you said, if it's a film that people are like, this is sick, we got to make this. And then all of a sudden it's just based on community reaction and whatnot. Well, are there certain kind of scripts or stories that you guys are looking for, you know, or a structure towards like the approach to it? Like you said, you know, one location, this many actors. Are there certain kind of, you know, criteria and or genres that people should keep in mind?
So we've been talking about movie of the week, which is a very contained production. I mean, Malediction was a couple $100,000 to create. White Prairie is another film we're developing, which is $5 million film. So we're not only doing these micro budget movies, but that's what kind of we're talking about today. So yeah, the confines would be the location being contained. I'd say 90%, if not all of it, in one location, limited actors, and that has to be shootable within 10 days. Like no more than 10 days, because otherwise it's just not cost effective. So those would be kind of the constraints. But I honestly, constraining creates creativity. Like when you have to fit into a box, you kind of come up with all kinds of really cool things in that box, right? And not, you know, we're pretty scrappy, resourceful bunch, you know. And the graphics in the film are pretty. I was pretty impressed by what we did with a no budget, right? But it's people who wanted to learn. We have some AI graphics in there. We have a lot of After Effects stuff, but it was, you know, folks kind of who wanted to learn and who had time to do it. And I'm really proud of the end result, you know, given the constraints that we put on ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think, you know, that's kind of key. I think for most of us, and even the people that are joining, like wanting to join Truce, is like almost 98% of them, or 99% of them haven't ever made a film. Like they might have done a commercial or a short film. Like everyone's like 10 short films or something, right?
Right.
But making a full cohesive story, like beginning to end kind of film. And so, you know, this is kind of a way to say like, you're gonna fail. You know what I mean? Like in some ways, but we're not saying this is gonna be the best movie in the world. Like that's not what this is. It's getting that first film under your belt. You know, like how can we help, you know, hundreds of people that want to be directors get their first film under their belt? Because like I know, like I would love to do a movie of the week, you know, and be a director and do mine as like that because of the less stress, and then be like, okay, I've got, you know, I've got that under my belt. I know though Julie would kill me because like I would want to have like 100 locations, but I would sacrifice on lighting. But that's me.
So it probably wouldn't be a movie of the week.
It would just be me and two people. It'd be a small crew, very small.
Okay. Well, that is
me and Julie.
Awesome, and just super exciting for anybody around Colorado to have that opportunity. So yeah.
Well, and I will also clarify, yes, the majority of our members are Colorado, but like we're developing a film now that we're going to film in Colombia. But, there's a great film incentive there. So the vision is that those cast and crew there in Bogota where we're filming will become Truce members. And then, we'll have little ecosystem there in Colombia. Mm-hmm. And long term, the idea is that, Brandon can have 100 locations because he'll go hop into all the places where we have the crew members. Yeah. And, it's less expensive because their day rates are much lower because they're equity holders as well, right? So it's like we are becoming our own financiers, basically.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. And as it grows, that's always the idea is like as things grow, it's like cool, you're able to kind of do, different rates or whatnot, but like have it set to where like the person is investing their time and energy and, getting a return on that investment. That's the key.
That's exciting. I feel like I've seen a couple of my favorite filmmakers doing stuff kind of like this, where they're sort of crowdfunding. Like Robert Rodriguez is doing this thing right now through, it's called like Brass Knuckle Films, and they're doing their own fundraising for like 10 action films or something. Nice. And then Eli Roth is another director I really like, and he's doing some sort of horror studio that again is like sort of community self-funded. Mm-hmm. And with everything going on in Hollywood, I got, it's like, it's kind of, people are on the trend of figuring out different avenues to, do independent film and whatnot, because all we're seeing is superhero films and stuff like that. But but on the note of local to Colorado, so we did have the amazing announcement of Sundance coming here, which I mean, I am just thrilled by that. And I feel like I was kind of comparing it to like South by Southwest, where it's like they'll have like a Texas shorts segment. There's like a couple different like Texas focused segments to South by Southwest. Mm-hmm. And I hope there's going to be stuff like that for Sundance, like that's like Colorado focused. And just by virtue of being here, it's like, and your film gets into one of those blocks, it's like, well, it's still got into Sundance. Yeah. Absolutely. So I'm just thrilled to see what that does for the state. But like, I don't know, in terms of the community around here, what's your guys' take? I know there's been some, like that film study that was done that talked about things being siloed. And then Shauna Schultz has been running like that town hall to try to kind of get people to, move forward and try to build more of an industry here. Like, I don't know. What is your guys' take, especially coming from this perspective of like Truce Media and whatnot? I mean, I would say, there's a great sense of everyone coming together. I mean, like, everyone in Colorado is pretty much always been collaborative. The only problem is that for the last, 20 years that I've been here, it's been siloed for a long time. Just everyone's kind of been siloed and doing their own thing. And there's just hasn't been a ton of work, like such an excess amount that everyone is just like, oh, whatever, So you got to get everybody in the mindset of like, abundance. There's abundance, right? And so now that Sundance is coming, I think everyone's realizing that, well, we're definitely on the upswing. For many years, it was like kind of on a downswing in a sense where like, well, no, we're never getting incentives or whatnot. And thank goodness Colorado got chosen for this because, a lot of the rumblings in the background was like, well, we finally got 5 million approved, and that was supposed to be 15. And then, they're talking about the budgets and all this stuff that has to be done to even approve that amount. And for the Texans.
Yeah, for the Texans. And what you need is certainty, right? You can't tell somebody that's going to come in and film, or even somebody here local, like, you're going to film this and you're going to get, $100,000 back. And then all of a sudden you're like, sorry, it's not there. Like, I'm sorry, that's not going to happen. Like, nobody's going to pull the trigger on these things. And so, you look at that in the film office, getting that 5 million, but it's like, if they weren't able to get Sundance here, it's like, there's probably a really great chance that goes away, or even the film office entirely would have just been like, we're done. Like, I don't know, like you tried and you failed and you didn't get Sundance, but like, what else is there that you could do? I mean, I just think that the support could have potentially gone one way or the other, pendulum wise. And because we have it, I think everyone has to like really kind of rally, you know, and say like, we got to put everything behind, you know, the next year and a half, 2 years to be ready so that we do have like a Colorado section where we're hoping like, you know, women in film and CFEA and, you know, cinema and Cinefe, like all the different organizations can have, you know, a presence and meet people and talk about what we've been doing for decades here alone compared to LA or anyone else. And then also, like you're saying, you know, being able to have some shorts for Colorado, you know, kind of thing would be amazing just to have something in Sundance. And I know everyone here, even ourselves, are looking at like, what are we going to make? Like we're hoping for us, like White Prairie, you know, like White Prairie can be made. It's a very Colorado centric story. It's ideal. It's like, you know, we get that made and go straight into Sundance with it and they like it and accept it. That'd be a huge win of saying like, here's a true Colorado story, you know, on this launch. And so we're going to do everything we can. We're just going to do it. We give ourselves permission to do it. We're going to make it happen. I know Julie, nothing stops Julie. That's for sure. But she could probably speak to the women in film side too. I know she's on the board.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm on the board of Women in Film. I'm also a regional film commissioner out in Chaffee County, and I think for me, Sundance it is our time, and it is our time to come together as a state and to really use Sundance to sort of launch from. Right? Like we don't need Sundance's permission to do, you know, certain things. It's up to us to decide, okay, during Sundance, we're going to be having the Colorado film, blah, blah, blah. I don't know.
Yeah.
The ball.
Leaders are, leaders of these organizations and companies we are talking together and planning like, okay, what are we going to do? What is going to be the mark, you know? I mean, we all met at Mass FX and at Shauna's place. What was that, like last month, I think?
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago, yeah.
Yeah, and we, you know, planting that seed of, okay, what are we going to do? And we had a board meeting for women in film literally yesterday, and we spoke about that. So it's already on the minds of the different organizations here. And I will say on a national level, Alicia Leeper was our former president of Women in Film and Media here in Colorado. She's now the president of the National Women in Film. So, like, we are just set up to, I think, be a leader. And, you know, hopefully Women in Film will be giving some, you know, female director award at Sundance or something like that. And the Film Commission, I mean, we have regional film commissioners. We're all really looking at how we leverage Sundance. I mean, that bill that supported Sundance is actually also infusing cash into our local film festivals. So, you know, that's going to be great for Telluride and Durango and Boulder. And hey, I'm in here in Salida, really hoping that we'll be able to have a bigger footprint with our festival moving forward too. So, I mean, I feel like it's a moment in time that is, all right, Colorado film is here and we're doing some amazing things, and let's go to the next level.
Yeah,
for sure.
And I really hope that, like, you know, Sundance in Utah, I mean, Julie was able to go a couple of years for us and experience it out there. You know, it's had its time in Utah, and like, you know, things grow and things change, you know, and there's seasons and such. But like, you know, I really feel like in Colorado, you look at how central we are. I mean, we're close to each coast in a sense, you know. We're like,
airport.
Yeah, great airport, easy access in and out. Boulder's an amazing town. You know, it's got a lot of resources around it. I mean, it's not far from Denver to Boulder.
No,
you know, even Golden to Boulder. Like, in the foothills are there for people to go skiing. You know, there's just so much that's going to be here. Like, I really hope we can prove that, like, what was, you know, $1 billion boon to, let's say, you know, Utah is $2 billion for Colorado, in a sense that, like, we're able to do so many things that it just, you know, everyone sees the benefits, that it's like a no-brainer. Like, we've brought a lot of, you know, media and presence, and, you know, the films are coming from around the world. So, like, people knowing, like, filmmakers coming in and going, wow, I've never been to Colorado before, right? It could be a huge director that comes in and, like, they see something and go, that inspires me. I want to make a film here.
Right.
That's something that would have never happened before had it not been here. So I think that's, you know, a huge benefit to everyone.
For sure.
And then just, the local support and all the people that work here, you know, showing up and being there and supporting it will be key. So, I mean, it's just kind of a win all around. That's for sure.
Yeah. I'm excited to see where it all goes. I'm really looking forward to it. Hell yeah. Well, just to close out here, where can social media channels for Truce Collective outlets do the different facets of that, and then the Flamingo Effect, if there's social media channels, or where should they go to watch it? TrucePlus.
Well, thankfully we've kind of switched our sites up. If you go to truce.media, you can go there and it actually points you to each of the different pages and it goes straight to those pages. So if you want to go to Truce Studios, that's there, but trucestudios.com, truceagency.com. If you have any client work, let us know.
Okay.
And TrucePlus.com. Yeah. So you can go to TrucePlus and the feature on there is Flamingo Effect. And then we'll have the coming soon from Malediction up, I think, in the next week. And then we'll start, promoting that. And then we've got some library content from around the world that we're kind of curating right now to start releasing on there in small doses. So
nice. Hell yeah.
So hopefully people do go to truceplus.com and watch the Flamingo Effect. And also we're about to drop the behind the scenes documentary of the making of the Flamingo Effect, which was really fun as well. So that vibe that you were talking about, like people will actually be able to see the vibe. There was a lot of laughing on set, which people can see. And anyway, so we're really excited to see how TrucePlus helps us really go into sort of the next level of our organization and really have an impact on film globally.
Yeah.
That's exciting. Hell yeah. Well, yeah, Julie, Brandon, thank you guys so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. And maybe on the next film we can have you guys back on and we'll see how things went with that. And yeah, looking forward to seeing how it all goes. And I'll have to reach out to the agency. I hire out through my work a lot for freelance. So
absolutely.
I'll have to look into that. But thank you guys so much.
Thanks, Nick.
Thanks.
No worries. This is Set Talks, the podcast that helps you navigate and connect with the Colorado film scene. Thanks for tuning in.